Learning English doesn't always mean reading boring grammar books or memorizing word lists. Sometimes you just need a good story. Something real, something fun, something that shows how English works in the wild. That's why we're here. So hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and lean back. Let's go on another little adventure together. He had been in Beijing for 3 days, and so far, everything had gone smoothly. He visited the Temple of Heaven, tried crispy duck, and even managed to order bubble tea with just a few Chinese phrases and a lot of pointing. But the place he was most excited about, the place he'd read about since he was a kid, was the Forbidden City. On the morning of his visit, the sky was gray with soft clouds hanging low over the city. He arrived early, ticket in hand, and stood outside the massive red gates, staring up at the golden roofs beyond the walls. The moment felt big, like stepping into a page of history. Inside, the scale of the place took his breath away. Courtyards stretched out in every direction. Stone walkways led through rows of massive buildings, each one with painted dragons and curling roof tiles. The sound of footsteps on stone echoed around him as he wandered, wide-eyed and curious. He followed the main path at first, along with the slow-moving crowd. Most people walk with phones in their hands, snapping photos every few steps. Others moved in groups, listening to guides explain the history of emperors and dynasties. But after a while, he found himself wanting something different, something quieter. That's when he noticed a narrow path to the side. It curved behind one of the large halls and led toward what looked like a quiet inner courtyard. There wasn't a sign saying not to go, just a small wooden gate left slightly open. He looked around. No one seemed to be paying attention. So, without really thinking too hard, he stepped through. At first, it was fine. The path was stone and mossy, but clean. A few trees lined the walls, and a small stone bench sat in the shade. He smiled, feeling like he had discovered a hidden part of history. This must be one of the quiet gardens where the royal family used to relax. It felt peaceful, like the air itself was older here. He kept walking, letting the main crowd disappear behind him. But after turning a corner, things began to change. The walls on either side grew higher, and the walkway narrowed. There were no signs, no lights, and definitely no other visitors. A pair of large wooden doors stood at the end of the path, closed and silent. He turned around, planning to walk back, but something caught his eye to the left. A small open gate. Now he was sure this wasn't part of the regular tour. But curiosity won again. He ducked through the gate. On the other side was a small yard filled with potted plants and dusty tools. It looked like a maintenance area, probably for workers who took care of the buildings. There were no crowds here, no guards, no signs in English, just silence and the soft sound of leaves moving in the wind. He stepped forward slowly, hoping he wasn't trespassing, but also not seeing any reason to panic. After all, he hadn't jumped a fence or broken a rule, not exactly. Then he heard footsteps. 2 workers appeared from a side door. Both wore dark blue uniforms and looked surprised to see him. They paused mid-step. He froze. One of the workers tilted his head and said something in Chinese. The tone was calm but confused. The traveler raised his hands a little, showing he meant no harm. "Sorry I lost," he said, hoping they'd understand. The worker pointed back the way he came and said something else. The tone was firmer now. Not angry, just very clear. This wasn't a place for tourists. He nodded quickly. Okay, going back. My bad. He turned around and walked, a little faster now, back through the gate, past the dusty pots, through the narrow path, and out toward where he came in. Only now, things looked different. There were more paths than he remembered. The walls looked familiar, but not quite right. He took a left, then a right, then found himself in front of a small building that definitely wasn't on the tourist map. He checked his phone, but the map wasn't helping. The GPS kept jumping around, and the Forbidden City, as old as it is kind of a maze if you don't stick to the main roads. For the next 20 minutes, he wandered in circles. He passed the same empty bench 3 times. Every path looked like the last one. The same stone walls. The same red doors. He was still inside the city. That much he knew. But the people were gone. The main crowd, the sound of guides, the snack stalls, nowhere to be found. He started to wonder if he'd end up accidentally spending the night in there. Finally, he spotted a guard standing near a large door that looked more official than the others. The guard saw him, raised an eyebrow, and walked over. The traveler pointed behind him and tried his best to explain. "I thought shortcut. Got lost." The guard didn't smile, but he wasn't upset either. He spoke into a small radio, waited a second, then waved the traveler toward him. He opened a large wooden door and motioned for him to go inside. Beyond the door was a hallway. At the other end, bright sunlight poured in from the exit. He stepped outside, right into the main courtyard again. Back with the crowds. Back with the normal tour. He laughed under his breath, shook his head, and looked up at the red rooftops. He had taken a shortcut and ended up lost in one of the most famous places in the world. He didn't get in trouble. No one yelled. But he had definitely learned something. Just because a door is open doesn't mean it's meant for you. And in ancient places like the Forbidden City, it's best to stay on the path, unless you want a surprise history lesson. Later that day, as he sat eating a street snack near Tiananmen Square, he wrote about the experience in his journal. In English, slowly, thoughtfully, he wrote, "I try to take a shortcut through the Forbidden City. Instead, I found silence, shadows, and a feeling like I didn't belong there. But also something else, the reminder that even mistakes can lead to good stories." And that's exactly what this was. Did you enjoy that story? Because if you did, you just picked up a ton of English without even realizing it. You learned how to describe places, how to talk about getting lost, and how to turn a small travel mistake into a funny memory. Now it's your turn. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever wandered off the path while traveling? Got lost somewhere unexpected? Let us know. And don't forget, new stories drop every single day. Hit that like, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one.